One of the choices that is before us is to do nothing, right? Just let her go. Just keep on the same trajectory. I'd like to kind of hit the three. Let's start with Ms. Rectanis. From your perspective, do nothing, what happens?
To be quite simply, I guess the doomsday is we're going to run out of money. As an example, in 2017, with the restructuring, the $52 billion that the Postal Service has put aside, that's where premiums are going to start to come out of now. And given that for retirees, the Postal Service has paid 3 to 4 premiums a year, $1 billion in premiums a year, with a total of $52 billion, it's not hard to understand that that fund's going to run out of money. So if we run out of money, what happens? We're talking about a taxpayer bailout, as you had talked about. We're talking about reducing pay and benefits, which could come to trouble. Or we could talk about saddling the Postal Service with coming up with more money when they probably do not have that. So there's not really a good scenario other than we're going to run out of money.
Chairman Taub, what's your perspective on that?
I'd concur with GAO on that. I think I would add that we're in some ways past the point where it's somewhat salvageable. I think in the early years after the Great Recession, if it was just the pre-funding issue and that had gotten fixed, Postal Service may have had some breathing room. Right now, over half of the problem goes beyond just the pre-funding, and we're starting to see, as I said, the impact of assets that have not only getting to the end of their depreciated life, but are fully depreciated. And the inability to invest in where there are opportunities of innovating the core, as the Postmaster General calls it, you need capital to do that. And when your borrowing authority is maxed out, you have roughly 30 days of cash on hand. Not only would I concur with the GAO's assessment, but I would argue we're already in the danger zone.
But what's your general perception, if you can, and you may not be able to, but what is your general perception of what would happen to postal rates?
Under current law, as we speak, the majority of their products, market dominant, letter mail, periodicals, flats, advertising mail, are capped at CPI and only for extraordinary circumstances. We're in the midst of that review now, trying to balance these 9 objectives. I would note in regard to your question and the focus of the hearing today, objective number 5 speaks of having financial viability in the sense of retained earnings and financial stability. So one of the 9 objectives that must be applied equally goes to the heart of this financial issue.
And Postmaster, from your perspective, we do nothing, what does that picture look like?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Clearly, the financial condition worsens and the continued default on legally obligated payments that impact both current employees and retirees. And the most egregious failure would be an inability to meet our obligation to serve the American public, an inability to deliver the mail.
What is your current cash on hand? And then once you give me that number, then why isn't that used to pay some of the payments that were due? You've defaulted, I believe, on 5 payments.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we've defaulted for the past 5 years to the tune of $33.9 billion. Our current cash on hand is $8.2 billion. And a determination was made by the Temporary Emergency Committee, which consisted at the time of our lone independent governor, myself, and the Deputy Postmaster General, to default on that payment to ensure that we conserve sufficient cash, which for an organization of our size is arguable at best, but to reserve sufficient cash to ensure if there is any contingency that would occur in the near term, we could at least have some cushion.
I mean, you have more cash than some of the others who are in the mail industry, but where is that proper balance? Where's...
Well, and I think that's a concern, Mr. Chairman, because for an organization that has expenditures of more than $70 billion a year, we would submit that $8.2 billion is insufficient. That's the concern for us. And also, as noted by the chairman, and we've discussed this, the fact that we have deferred on critical capital investments in the past 5 years to the tune of over $8.9 billion, that impacts our ability to compete and to generate additional revenues.
Tell us, if you can give me a perspective on your fleet and fleet management. There was a hearing, I think Chairman Meadows chaired earlier about the fleet. We were concerned the post office was Postal Service was going to come up with a very sizable contract but explain to me where you are in the fleet and where your perspective on it.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Well, we have one of the largest civilian fleets in the country with over 212,000 vehicles traveling more than 4 million miles a day. The fleet, though, is at the end of its expected life, particularly our delivery vehicles, that the average age is over 25 years. And the maintenance, annual maintenance cost is over $1 billion. So we have an approach to look at the next generation delivery vehicles that currently we're in the midst of a prototype testing period where we're working with 6 different suppliers to provide us with these vehicles that we will test over the course of the next 18 months. We also just, this week actually, a request for proposal for a commercial off-the-shelf solution for right-hand drive vehicles is expected. So we've got a multi-pronged approach looking at how to address the vehicle fleet.
Okay. Mr. Cummings had
Yeah,
follow-up on that.
just one question. What are we doing about, when you consider the fleet, making it in America? I mean, are these, what do you all aim at? Is there any, we've got a lot of concern about trying to make sure we give our automobile industry as much business as possible. I just wondering what you did.
And Congressman Cummings, we haven't made any decision in terms of the production phase of that next generation delivery vehicle, but we will follow our typical protocol, which is preference for domestically sourced parts, and we will require production of the vehicle, assembly of the vehicle in the United States.
Well, you should expect to hear from President Trump this afternoon.
All right, we'll now recognize the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Lynch, for 5 minutes.